So why we are actually talking about the darknet? So we should know that this is actually paper cutting, that is the UGC-NET question paper. So it was actually, we already discussed about the subject, that is the NEET controversy. So here we are actually going to discuss some other exam, that is the NET exam, which is conducted by the NTA, National Testing Agency. That particular exam was leaked on the darknet. So that is how the topic of darknet became important to us. So what is darknet? What are the major features behind it? How the criminals are using it? So this is what we have to understand in our first topic in today's current affairs session. So the center, actually the government of India, actually cancelled the exam because they knew that around 48 hours before the exam, the actual question paper of NET exam was leaked. So that question paper was available in the darknet and it was being sold for lakhs and lakhs of rupees. For around 6 to 10 lakh rupees, that question paper was being sold in the darknet, and it was even circulated in different Telegram channels for around 10,000 rupees, even like that. So the exam was actually utterly flawed, and so they actually cancelled the particular exam. The exam was conducted, and then after the day of conduction, the next day, the UGC chairman and all came and they said that the exam will be cancelled. Why? Because they matched the question paper which was available in the Telegram and Darknet, and then they matched with the original question paper. They said that, okay, this is the very same thing, so there is no use of conducting the exam, cancelling. So that is how we come to our topic, that is which is called the darknet, which is the another name for the alibi of darknet is dark web also. So we'll be discussing into that particular topic. And we have to understand that the darknet or dark web, it is actually very complex system. So we don't have to study about the technical implications of darknet and all the coding and other things. We have to understand what the particular thing is on a general perspective only. So let's go into the topic. Yes. So as you can actually look from the particular figure, it is actually like an iceberg, right? So normally what happens in an iceberg? We know about the ship that is Titanic, which hit the iceberg and sunk. So we should know that an iceberg is something which is visible only very small level above the surface level of the water. The major portion of the iceberg will also always be, below the water level. So it is very same applicable to this particular context itself. So as you start preparing to study about the particular thing called darknet, let's understand the system first. So we know about the thing called World Wide Web, that is the www. We actually use that, right? Whenever we are going to enter a particular website, we type that www dot something. So we know that first this particular www, that is the World Wide Web, it is actually a host. It is actually a connection of web pages on the network of computers. So there are a lot of computers in that, lot of web pages are there. So it is a connection, it is a bundle of web pages. We can say the www, that is the World Wide Web. And all these web pages are connected via something that is actually called the internet. So we are using the internet and we go to some browser, that is the Google Chrome or something like that. We go to that particular web page. So it is a collection of web page. Everything is there. And that is actually called the www. We access it through our computer through internet. That is the medium. The internet is the medium. One point, that is a very important point, right? So this particular thing called World Wide Web can be divided into two main parts. What are the main parts? The first part is actually the surface web. So you can see the surface web. And the second thing is actually we can call it the deep web. So we are not yet entered the subject of darknet. We are still in deep web, not dark web. So one point is surface web and the second is deep web. It is actually very easy to understand if you look at it like this. For example, if you are using your social media, for example, the normal, for example, ClearIAS site also, website also, there is blogs. There are different blogs also. When you go to a YouTube channel, all the social media things, everything actually comes in the particular thing called surface web. That is the everyday users, all the normal data, normally the sites we access, everything comes under the surface web part. That is the important thing. And it can be accessed by the ordinary internet user without any particular issue, like for example YouTube, Google, all the thing. And normal web browsers can be used for that. For example, there is normally people use Google Chrome, or there is Mozilla Firefox, all those things, right? Normal ordinary the web browsers are actually enough to browse through the surface web. So that is the first point. Now we come to the main important points. The second part, that is called the deep web. So what is actually deep web? It is actually accessed by the invitation only. So we should know that the surface web is actually contributing to only 4% of the entire data in internet. So that is what we are actually accessing. Whatever we are seeing, whatever things we are browsing, everything comes part of that 4% of the data. The rest of that 96% of the data in the internet in the compilation of www is actually coming in the deep web section. So that itself shows you how big the particular section, the particular data is actually all about. So when this particular thing is actually we are talking about the deep web, we should know that around 96% of the content, 96% of the data is part of the deep web. One important point. And this particular thing 96, we can actually break it down. This 96 is actually 90 plus 6. What do you mean by 90 plus 6? It means that the 90% of the data is in the part of this particular thing called deep web, and there is a 6%, right? And that 6% comes to the dark web area. So that is our topic, darknet or dark web. So the 90% is in the deep web, and the remaining of the 6% comes in the dark web area, which is the most inaccessible area in the collection of websites, collection of web pages. That is our main topic is. And we should understand that what is actually deep web and darknet. It is the main important thing is it is password protected. So you go to your social media sites, for example, Facebook. You go to your bank account, the online applications on online websites for bank and all banking and all these things. It is actually password protected, right? So it is not easily accessible by an ordinary people. You need to have password authorization. You need to have the authorization from the banks or other authorities, which has to give the permission. That is the particular area which is called the deep web. So normally it is beyond our understanding that we will think that surface web is the largest one. No, the deep web, which has the most important data and the more amount of data also. So just imagine if you go to a bank like SBI, so it will have multitude of data. It will have the data of millions of users. Just go to a very large hospital network. It will have the health data of millions of customers or the clients or patients in the hospital system. So that data is actually very much more than the free data that is available on the surface web. That is a very important thing we have to understand while actually we studying Darknet. And while this is not illegal, this is completely legal data. All the things which are actually using in your banking system, hospital system, all the things are legal, right? So there is nothing wrong with the thing called deep web here. Now we actually go to the next thing that is actually called the darknet. So there is the next point, darknet, which is the specialized form of deep web. So what is actually darknet? It is a part of deep web only. So we saw the what is actually the deep web. So this is actually the deep web, and there is a slight part inside the deep web which is most inaccessible. That is called the darknet. And so it is first point. It is a part of the deep web. It is a very deep web. So it is just like imagine the image of that iceberg. It is part of the deep web, but it is a most inaccessible area of the deep web. So that is why we are calling it the dark net. One point. The second point is even though it is part of the deep web, it can be accessed by the password and all the things, right? The deep web. But this particular area that is called the darknet, which is kept hidden deliberately. So there are the users of it. It is actually keeping the data in the darknet or the entire darknet hidden. That too in a very deliberate manner. So they are actually keeping it very hidden manner so that normal users will not be able to access the darknet very easily. So that is the point why it is actually being hidden. It is actually being kept hidden through encrypted means and all, so that the normal ordinary users will not be able to access the darknet very easily. That is one important point. So the next thing is that it is definitely how it can be kept hidden. It is there are a lot of different encryption mechanisms are actually used for the thing. You don't have to understand the different encryption mechanisms because it is for totally to the computer engineering department and all. So we don't have to study the codes and different things regarding that. But just understand that if you are actually passing a data that is actually called, if this is actually the source and this is which is called X, if you pass the data, if it has to reach in the same form of X. What if there is another intermediary that is actually called the T? If the T is actually trying to spy on the data, the T will automatically get that the data which is the message is passed is X. So that should not be done, right? So before passing the data, what happens in the source is that the data which is called the X will be encrypted. So it will be going into this particular area through Y. So when the T actually, the spy or the hacker, when he encounters the particular message, he will read it as Y. But the actual message is X, right? So once the Y reaches the message, Y reaches the destination, it will reconvert into the original message that is X. So that is the basic concept of what is called encryption. So there is decryption and the end also. Excuse me. So that is the important thing behind darknet. And the last but not the thing about darknet is that not all web browsers like our Google Chrome, etc., Mozilla Firefox, these Opera Mini, etc., these will not be able to access what the content of the darknet. So only a few browsers will be able to access the content, the information in the darknet. So there comes the next question: what are the major browsers with which we can access the darknet? So normally the Google, the search engine, the Yahoo, Google Chrome, nothing will work on the darknet. Nothing will be able to crack open the particular thing called darknet. For that, specialized web browsers and softwares are available. The most important thing which is so in circulation is COR, that is the onion ring. So as you can see from the particular image, this is the logo of the particular web browser. There are other browsers also. For example, Freenet is one thing, Invisible Internet Project, that is IIP, that is another thing, Tails is one thing, Phoenix is one thing. So we don't have to study about each and every single thing. Just understand the names of the onion ring, the Freenet, Invisible Internet Project, Tails, as well as Phoenix. See, these are the different web browsers which are used to access the darknet. However, we have to understand the particular thing that is actually called the onion ring, which is the most important web browser used to access the darknet. So talking about the particular thing, we have to have an idea of how this thing works. Just look at the image here. This is actually an onion, right? So this is the onion ring. So what does this particular concept mean? Which means that if you take an onion in your kitchen, if you go and take your onion, you have to peel it, right? You have to peel the skin of the onion. So you peel the most outer covering layer of the skin. You peel it over, then comes the next layer, then comes the next layer. So ultimately, you will end up with what is the edible part of the onion. So just looking at the image, you have to peel off this part, you have to peel off this part, this, and eventually you'll get what is called the onion on the center. So it is the very same logic which is applicable on in the particular browser called the onion ring, which is you have to pass certain levels of encryption. So only if you pass the levels of encryption, you will get into the particular web browser, and then only you will be able to access the darknet. So the normal user will not be able to access the particular thing called darknet. You have to go through certain layers of encryption, then only you will be able to access the darknet. That is the concept behind the onion ring. You have to understand that it is actually initially the TOR was initially established by the US Naval Research Laboratory and all for the very good purposes. That is to to protect the US intelligence messaging and all. So if you pass the intelligence messages, the logistics and all, it should be very encrypted, right? It should be very safe and secure. For that purposes, the US Naval Laboratory was the one which actually established the particular web browser called the onion ring. So just we already mentioned about the several layers of onion. Just like that, the layer is actually the browser is working. So it has a lot of good purposes. That is for good communication measures and the security testing to crack down the different criminals who are on the darknet and all. So there are regions, there are countries in several in different parts of the world where different websites are banned. For example, accessing social media is actually banned. So that particular countries, those people can actually access their social media accounts through the darknet, and that particular web browser used for it is mainly the popular one is the onion ring. That is why we are spending a little time on the onion ring. So you have to understand that this is not illegal. So when you think about darknet and TOR, this is not at all illegal. However, you have to understand that if you are downloading the particular thing called TOR, the onion ring, automatically you will be under the radar of the intelligence agencies. Why that person is downloading that? That is actually used to access the darknet, right? So what is the requirement of that person to access the darknet? Why is he or she using the darknet? So automatically that person will come under the radar of the agents, different intelligence agencies and all. So this particular Chrome browser, even though it is actually for the good intentions, nowadays this particular website is actually mainly used for all the illegal, illicit things in the darknet. So that is the context of what is called the onion ring. So as we move forward, we have to also understand about certain lot of misuses are there because of the darknet. So some of the things are actually listed here. So why this darknet is actually extensively used for the illegal thing? The important advantage of those people who are committing the crime is anonymity. So you can actually hide your identity. You can remain anonymous. Then I can actually do a lot of different activities. You will be leaving very little trace only. So it will be very difficult for the different agencies and investigation agencies to get upon you. So that is the important thing, factor why people are going to the darknet to do their illicit crimes. So what are the different things we can actually list here? For example, a lot of different cyber terrorism is there. Different credit card, debit card data are actually stolen. So you would be hearing in different newspapers and news channels about the money which is actually being stolen through different means. So darknet is extensively used for that, to steal money from the bank account, and to avail arms and ammunition, and to get the thing called drug trafficking, to trafficking illegal drugs and all. In that particular aspect, we have to also mention about the Silk Road thing. So Silk Road was one particular area, that is the one important modern darknet market, we can say. So it was a kind of a market area within the darknet, within which illegal drugs and all the things were sold. And finally, it was found out that, and eventually it was stuck down in 2013. It was eliminated. It was found out and it was eliminated in 2013. So that was kind of a marketplace. It was kind of a website or marketplace within the darknet. So it was not easy for other people to easily access the site. It was very difficult for the intelligence agencies also. So finally, when they found out that there is something like that existing in the open, it is actually working in the open only, but within the darknet. So it was not very easy to identify. So once they found out, they just stuck it down. So it is a very important example of how the darknet should not be used and what are the dangers of darknet also. And the other thing is actually the child pornography. There is a lot of leaked data also. Whatever the data from, just like I said, the hospital data, the bank data, whatever data you have, it is actually very important. So all those data which are leaked, that is actually available in the darknet. And then the different viruses and malwares, then the different hackers also. For example, just like you are actually very good you're actually very good in hacking. You can actually advertise yourself in the darknet that I am actually very good hacker. If you want me to hack that one particular social media or etc., just give me 10,000 rupees. So you can actually advertise yourself for those illegal activities in the darknet also. So a lot of things can be done illegally in the darknet. So that is why it is very important to note the activities happening inside the darknet. And different criminals and different terrorist activities, the terrorist organizations also, they are actually going through the darknet. Why? Because they are getting some safe and secure chat rooms, right? It is very difficult for intelligence agencies to come and decrypt what they are actually talking. So the different chat rooms are actually used by them. And I remember one incident that during the COVID times, when the vaccine was actually getting coming, so a lot of countries, they were actually scrambling to get the vaccine, right? So vaccine was very rare. Everybody wanted the vaccine. So what happened was that there were a lot of advertisements going in the darknet that the vaccine is actually available in the darknet. You can give this much of rupees and we'll send you the vaccine. So all those things were actually very much fake. So they were actually trying to lure away the money also. So those things were the COVID times was one of the times when the importance of darknet was actually established in the illicit trade trafficking. And last but not the least, in the recent times, they're actually extensively using cryptocurrencies. So that is an entirely different topic. So they're definitely using something called cryptocurrencies in trading and all. That is using the blockchain technology, right? So using the blockchain technology, trading in cryptocurrencies is actually making them very difficult to detect and to stop them. So that is a very important thing you have to understand. Using of the blockchain technology in the darknet in the form of cryptocurrencies and all are making the intelligence agencies very difficult task to capture the culprits in the darknet. And last thing is that why this is actually always happening, because we said the anonymity of the particular situation. And we have to understand about what suggestions we can give, what are the way forward we can actually give in this particular topic. And because we already know that one of the most important exams in India, that is the UGC-NET, was cancelled because of the thing called Darknet, which itself shows that it is actually very important thing to be looked upon. So what can be the way forward? What can be the things we can suggest? We can say that whatever topic which is coming in front of us, there will be always be a positive thing will be there, and there will be negative aspect will be there. So we have to have a very good balance. So just because all the illegal things are happening in darknet, we should completely strike it off. We should start a war against darknet. Nothing like that. It should be very much regulated. It should be looked upon the issues. You should rectify the issues and just amplify the positives. That is the concept behind any topic which should be coming before you as an administrator also and as an aspirant also. So what are the different positives and negatives we can do, sir? We can activate upon. For example, it all depends on the level of utilization. So what you are actually utilizing the darknet, it is actually depending on that. If you are actually utilizing it for good purposes, then it is good. If you are not using it for good purposes, then it will automatically be bad. That is the way in which we should look upon the concept of utilization. For example, we can definitely mention about the freedom of information. We can suggest, we can get immense examples, number of examples of journalists different journalists actually accessing information, sharing information, communicating it with the other parts of the world through the help of darknet. Why? Because some of the countries, some of the harsh countries like maybe China, maybe Iran, or maybe North Korea, etc. These countries, they have no freedom of expression. They cannot actually talk about their government, talk against their government, etc. So what will the journalists in those countries do? They can access the darknet and they can communicate with the outer world. They can tell what the reality is in their country. So in those things, it actually helps to express the information, to pass the information safely without the detection of the authorities. That is one important point. That is, the freedom of information can be upheld because of the thing called darknet. And the next thing is that it is actually having a very transnational nature, right? So transnational means it is not located within one single nation. It has an impact on different nations in the entire globe. So because of that transnational nature, we have to understand that every country has to come together and will be there should have been a very good coordination to in the war against, in the battle against the illicit crimes in the darknet. It is not just one country's task. It should be a very coordinated attack against the illicit problems in the darknet. So that is very important because of the transnational nature of the crimes committed in the darknet. So there should be more joint training should be there. India should also equip itself against the illegal things against the darknet. For example, we have unofficial data from the different parts of the world that a country like China has more than around 1 lakh of soldiers, especially dedicated to the cyber warfare. But India, we don't know if we have a dedicated warfare. Even if we have, the number will automatically will be very less and difficult. So we have to have a very good large army, we can say, a group of people who can actually go for the cyber warfare, who can give us protection, who can resist those attacks from different parts of the world also. So that those people who can crack upon the illegal things in the darknet also. That is one important suggestion we have to understand. So there should be more investments also. And the last thing is that we have to understand that we have to hear about the word that is called Cyberdome. So Cyberdome is it is a cyber security wing of the Kerala police, the state Kerala. That is, and why we are actually mentioning about Cyberdome in the class is that it was actually asked in the UPSC main question paper. It is I guess in 2019 mains. It was asked in the question paper directly. That is mentioned about the thing called Cyberdome recently seen in news. So that is a very important thing. You have to go through the different things happening in and around the cyber security area. What that suggestions can also be included in your answer if it is asked in the mains exam point of view. And last but not the least, before winding up the topic, we have to understand that this is actually a page, the front cover of the magazine that is called The Economist, and you can see that they are actually representing the data to be the new oil. So earlier in the earlier part of 20th century, what is the most wealthiest thing? That is actually the oil. So that is why every country, the Western countries and all the countries were actually looking into the Gulf countries. Why? Because Gulf has one of the most important reserves of the oil. They were really precious. The natural gas and the oil, all those things were really precious. So that is why the desert countries, even the Saudi, the Iran and Iraq and all these things were actually getting rich. Why? Because of the oil. Oil was the main thing in that particular century. But the scientists are definitely saying that in the coming century, especially in the second half of the 21st century, what will be the new oil? Data will be the new oil. So the thing called data will be the new oil. That is the coin, that is a term which is actually coined by the British mathematician Clive Humby. And he was a British mathematician, Clive Humby, and he was actually the one who coined the phrase that data will be the new oil. So we can actually apply these kind of phrases and all while you are actually writing the exam. So that is the topic of darknet, and let's discuss the next topic.